Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back, and today we're going to do One Piece chapter 1063 review. Let's get into it. So in the cover page, it looks like Pudding is kidnapped and Cracker is just completely frozen with the rest of Whole Cake Island, and Brûlé is just bawling over him. So some takeaways from this is that, one, people were saying that Doflamingo is confirmed now stronger than Cracker. So I'm not completely bought into this because what we saw at Punk Hazard, I believe that Aokiji was just kind of snaring Doflamingo and kind of threatening Doflamingo to let Smoker go in that instance. However, in this instance, he made sure that Cracker was frozen because Cracker would have stopped him from obviously taking Pudding, right? So in this scenario, I think Aokiji just had to freeze everyone he could that was strong. Another thing I noticed from this is that obviously Blackbeard wants to read these poneglyphs now, so that's why he went to Whole Cake Island, and I'm 100% sure that Aokiji picked up some information on the poneglyph there. And then later in the chapter, we see that obviously he's trying to get the poneglyph from Trafalgar Law, right? So he wants someone to be able to actually read these, and since he can't get his hands on Robin, he needs someone else, right? So he's gonna start using Pudding and her third eye if it actually works, right? So we still don't know if her third eye even works. We open up the chapter with Bonnie, Chopper, and Luffy just stuffed to the absolute brim from eating from the cooking machine. It was a hilarious little piece of comedy here where Atlas is like, all four of you have bulging bellies, and Jinbei's just like, yo, mine was already like that, you know? I was just like, yo, Jinbei, I feel you, man. I feel Jinbei. So Jinbei's a vibe, man. And right after that, Atlas is like, yo, I gotta get back to work, otherwise no one else is gonna work. And we quickly see here the Recycle Cur, which is like this robot dog that just eats any metal, bones, and trash that's left over, which is pretty interesting. And we also see some other robots just start popping out. And some of the robots look like those robots we saw on the moon with Enel. I can't remember exactly what the name of those were, but we see some of those robots as well, and some other types of robots. Even Jinbei points out like, hey, it seemed deserted a second ago, but now kind of all these robots just popped up out of nowhere. Then Luffy suddenly gets a change of outfit, and Luffy is wearing basically like a cloak, futuristic cloak, and it's labeled SSG. And I think this gives us a little bit of insight to all the machines and things on Egghead Island. So I don't necessarily believe that all these things were created by Vegapunk himself. I think all the SSG used to work on this island, and that's why there's so many different types of devices, not necessarily worked on by Vegapunk, but potentially worked on by Judge, potentially worked on by Queen, Caesar, people like this, and other scientists that were related to SSG, right? That's why we have all these different types of technologies, and potentially the other versions of Vegapunk. I think those bodies could have been other scientists that were on SSG, and that's why each of these Vegapunks have their own specializations, right? So the Lilith Vegapunk was dealing with all those like android, basically beasts in the ocean, things like that. And then Atlas was over here with like the robots and the holograms, things like this. So I'm wondering if each Vegapunk has a different specialization because of the fact that they're not actually Vegapunk, but they used to be scientists involved with the SSG. So that's kind of my little theory here. And yeah, after Luffy gets his little upgrade in his outfit, Bonnie, Jinbei, and Chopper also get some upgrades. Then all of a sudden we see our boy Kuma, but it's not the regular Kuma, it's Kuma dressed as a police officer, and it seems like it's another pacifista Kuma, but this one's obviously set up as a police officer for Egghead Island. And this Kuma starts to attack, and Luffy's about to use, I think, Elephant Gun on him, and right before he can, Bonnie ends up stopping him and tells Luffy that, yo, that's my father, please don't hurt my father. And Luffy's so confused because he's like, yo, dude, that's not your father. That's clearly a pacifista, right? It's, as Luffy has fought many pacifistas in the past. I think Bonnie is just completely PTSD'd out on this, and then she ends up just falling to her knees, and Kuma is about to take her out in this instance. And we see Luffy trying to go to save her. In the end, I think obviously Luffy ends up getting to her and saving her and moving her out of the giant laser blast. But yeah, dude, looks like Bonnie is really held up by the fact that, you know, her father was brainwashed by Vegapunk and turned into this cyborg android. And moving on, we go to a certain sea in the New World, and we see Blackbeard's ship, and we see Law's ship just sinking down into the ocean, and looks like their submarine is taking on some water, and Law's like, yo, dude, we gotta get out of this, we gotta surface, right? Otherwise we're gonna sink. And then out of nowhere, straight up, Law just turns into a woman. Law just freaking turns into a woman Woman, and we learn that this is Don Q's ability, and this specific ability is called the Ma-Lady Transformation Plague, and it turns out that Don Q's disease is also contagious as well, so it ends up spreading to the rest of Law's crew. And Law then gives us a little bit of insight on how devil fruits work, and he states here that devil fruit powers can be countered by the use of a great deal of Haki, right? So that explains a lot about the battle on the rooftop against Big Mom and Kaido. And we're all like, hey, if Law's abilities are so hacked, how come he can't just cut off Big Mom and Kaido's head instantly, right? And this is obviously showing that Big Mom and Kaido use so much Haki that they basically nullify Law's ability to some degree, right? Unless Law uses more Haki than what they're using, right? So that's why he was able to damage Big Mom and Kaido in certain instances, however, not the entire time, right? Because I'm sure in a lot of other areas, they were using more Haki than he has. And so this reminded me of what Aizen stated when he was facing the 13 captains, is he can nullify abilities with basically how much Reiatsu he uses, right? So based on like the volume of Reiatsu he uses, he was basically just able to nullify the ability, right? So it's very similar with Haki here. And once Law ends up nullifying the ability, we also learn a little bit about Don Q's ability with his disease and the Ma-Lady Transformation Plague. And as he states here, is once someone comes up with an antibody, looks like the remedy just basically goes around and reverses the effect of a disease. Once one person is able to counter the effect of his devil fruit, then seems like that other people just naturally get healed. So that's kind of a counter to Doc Q's ability, and that's pretty interesting. And the battle continues, and Law ends up having to teleport to the nearby island, and we see that Burgess is already there, and Burgess ends up just picking up a mountain and throwing it at Law. And we also get a confirmation here that Burgess has the buff fruit. That's why he's able to lift this mountain like this. This is probably like one of the craziest straight up strength feats that we've seen in the story so far. Like, this is way bigger and way crazier than when Zoro lifted up that entire building. I think that was in the Alabasta arc where he was fighting number 1 and he just ends up falling and crumbling under the building and he just lifts up the building. It was a pretty crazy scene. This blows that scene kind of out of the water where Burgess is just lifting up straight up the entire mountain. Continuing on, Blackbeard ends up pulling up and he pulls up on Stronger, and Stronger is confirmed to have another devil fruit as well, the mythical Zoan horse fruit model Pegasus, right? So pretty crazy fruit to just give to a horse. I wish they gave it to like some human. That would be a cooler ability, but yeah, the horse has this Pegasus ability now. Blackbeard also states here that he knew that he would run into either Kid, Law, or Luffy once they left Wano, and he was basically looking for them to end up getting the poneglyph information, right? So he knew Kaido had a poneglyph and he basically just wants that information. Obviously, since he stole Pudding now and he has someone to actually read it, he's collecting all the poneglyphs, so from Big Mom, Kaido, and Law basically doesn't back down here, and he says whoever wins here takes it all. Law is down to fight, even though this is such a one-sided battle. We at least have like, I think 4 devil fruit users here versus just Law, and then obviously we've seen that Beppo isn't much, so Law has basically no support. He's going 4v1, and I think he's gonna win. I called it already. I tweeted it out. I think Law is gonna injure Blackbeard enough just to get away and escape. However, I don't think it's gonna be a definitive win at all. I think this is gonna be one of Law's toughest matches. Even though he did great against Big Mom, a lot of those instances he was more of a support character, moving people around. He was making kind of critical attacks. However, he wasn't doing any straight up brawling, and in this scenario I think he's gonna need a straight up brawl against Blackbeard's crew here. But yeah, that's kind of all I've got for this chapter. I think moving forward, Law may need some help to get out of this situation. I wonder if Kid is nearby. Maybe Kid and Law team up here versus Blackbeard's crew. That would be a pretty cool scene. But I think Law will be able to do it and he'll be able to get out of this. Really excited to see what happens next. And let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.